Wagwan, everybody. Lennox here from Simple123 Trader. This is the weekly outlook for the major currencies, futures, and indices for the week of March 13th to March 18th. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm going to start off with a look at the US dollar index. And starting off on the weekly time frame, we'll take a look at what's setting up here for the coming week. And looking at what's showing right now, we have been in quite a move to the upside and are looking to come into a resistance area imminently. So at the end of the week, we were still very strong, and now we're pushing also. We had a pin bar on the last bar last week, and now we're pushing to break that high and come into this area of resistance that we're facing here. So it looks very strong overall for the US dollar index as we head into the start of this week. And as you can see here, we've had quite a push. We might, again, we're coming into some resistance, so we might see that be a problem breaking through. But if we break through, the next level of resistance is ahead. But overall, a very strong looking US dollar going into the week. Now, lots of news to come with Fed interest rates and so forth. So should be a very interesting week. But again, US dollar looking pretty strong going into the week. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin is mired in a very strong support area right now, and that's on the weekly there. On the daily, looking, mired in this area of ups and downs, and it's been very volatile, but it's looking like we're going to be heading down overall. So this week, look for further weakness in Bitcoin. If we break these lows, we're heading much further south. So a lot of weakness going into this week in Bitcoin. Let's take a look at crude oil. And on the weekly time frame, crude oil has been very strong, but last week we had a turn to the downside, and we're kind of mired right now at an interesting level, looking like we could still see further downside. That's totally possible. If I drop to the 4-hour on this, let's just see what I'm seeing overall. We back down to a support area, and we could push back in the short term, back up for this week. But it looks a little bit tenuous. So either way could occur on this, and I could even go to the hourly and take an even closer look at it. And what I'm seeing overall is that more than likely we're going to fall. So looking like we are going to more than likely, like I say, push to the downside in the short term, at least for the week, in the crude oil. Okay, let's take a look at the gold. Let's go to gold. Gold on the weekly. It also, like the US dollar, was pushing very strongly to the upside. We got to a resistance area and then a big rejection and back down to a previous support. So looking for this week, are we going to continue down? Looks that way. Looks like we're going to continue down, maybe back into this area in the by the end of the week, perhaps. But gold looking a little bit weak at this point on the charts. I'm going to just drop to the 4 to take a closer look. And again, still looking a little bit weak here. We're at a very interesting point. Could get a bounce, but overall still looking more like we're going to head to the downside overall. Okay, let's take a look at the Dow. On the weekly, the Dow still in a downward descent, and even though right now overnight we're getting a push to the upside, I'm just seeing a complete weakness here in this overall market. So at this point, we are straggling a very strong support area and trying. You can see it's trying very hard to get out of this, but still looks overall very weak. Any moves to the upside would be an opportunity to sell into the Dow, I would say, coming up this week. So looking for volatility overall, especially with the Fed's talking interest rates hikes and so forth. So let's take a look at the S&P. Similar with the S&P, it too mired at this area. You can see I go up to the weekly on this. We were at a point of support and looking to break through to the downside, and it looks like that's probably the what's going to transpire. We are very much in a congestion, and again, I'm looking for further weakness and a breach of these levels to the downside. That's the most likely trajectory. I'm going to stick with that move. Okay, so downward mode. Any bounces, look to sell, I would say. Take a look at U.S. Technology Group. And you can see it's also similar, and it's very weak in the U.S. Tech Group. We had a very strong move to the downside, hitting some support, and then we're still looking to continue through this congestion area. And as you can see, we're still heading to the downside. And on the 4-hour time frame for the week, we're still looking rather weak. So again, any kind of bounces, I would be looking to sell to the downside. So looking for a breach of these levels to the downside for the week. Okay, what else can we take a look at? The euro. Since the US dollar has been strong, we've been getting weakness in the euro. Let me just take a look at that on the weekly. And that is so. We've been very weak because of the US dollar strength, and we've come right into a support area. So do we have more to go, or are we going to get a bounce at this point? Similar to what the US dollar is doing, except for the opposite direction. It looks like we're going to continue to the downside, at least in the short term. So it still looks a little bit tenuous. We could get a little bit of a bounce, but any moves that way, we're going to continue to the downside overall because the US dollar has lots of strength to the upside. All right, and let's see, one more. We'll take a look at Japanese yen. And the Japanese yen was bucking the trend and heading the opposite way to the US dollar. So you can see it's very weak overall. That's on the week. I'm going to go to the monthly and see. So on the monthly, now we can kind of see we've breached this previous trend that we've been going up, and now we've broken that to the downside, looking very bleak. Coming back to support, looks like we're going to cut right through that back down into this support area here in the long term. So that's on the monthly. On the weekly time frame, we're still headed down. You can see spiking down right as we speak, and still heading down. So looking for continued weakness in the Japanese yen overall going into the week. Lastly, let's look at the DAX. The DAX has been down quite a lot as well, and you can see it's at a support area, looking to make a little bit of a bounce. Did make a bounce, and at this point we could see a further drop and back into this area, but that might mean we're heading back up again after that, because we're down at a very strong support area. We get this bounce, we could see a turnaround in the DAX. We'll see how that plays out as the week goes along. But first move to the downside, and then maybe a bounce after that. If we break the lows, all bets are off, and the DAX is heading further to the south. All right, so that's a look at what's setting up for the week. Profitable trading to everyone. Be safe. I'm done now. Thank you.